Hey everybody, Robert Hoffman, aka Rockhoff, here again for the final installment, final required installment of my 20% project for my EDIT 2000 class at UGA. The reason I say probable final is because my class, actually the final presentation is tomorrow. Um, so I have a few final required questions. However, I might continue this project a little bit, or this blog a little bit more after the requirement is done, and just see where I can go with it, and if not, expand it into regular video games. But that's all tentative right now, and right now I still have to get some of the stuff out of the way. And in honor of this ending semester, I'm a senior at UGA, so this is going to be my final full semester. So in honor of me graduating a little bit too, I finally decided to pull out the last school I graduated from, which is my old high school alma mater, Dutch Fork High School. So shout out, go Foxes. All right, but moving on past that, I do have a little bit more business to attend to. I have final necessary questions I have to answer, which I'm going to go ahead and do, but I also remember that I promised that I would finish analyzing Urban Rivals. I will recap on that a little bit, and also since this is the last one required for this class, I'm going to have to summarize everything up in total. So I imagine this video is going to be a two-parter. I'm going to have to upload twice due to the 15-minute rule, but I plan on this most likely will end up as a two-parter, so just be patient. But so welcome back to the vlog. All in all, my topic has been, if you haven't been keeping up this entire time, it has been I'm taking various flash games from around the internet and I'm analyzing them for educational value. Sorry, this glare is bothering me. I'm going to go ahead and take these off. Analyzing flash games for educational value rather than letting them be accepted in people's general terms as time wasters. Every flash game, I feel, has educational value and can be creatively applied to the classroom in some way, shape, or form. So far, I have analyzed Neopets, and I started analyzing Urban Rivals. And another game I've been promising that I have yet to actually analyze has been Monster MMORPG. I hope to get into that this video and probably the beginning of the next part 2. And then I'm going to wrap everything up at the end of part 2. But that was one of the questions my professor has given me. The other one, some more questions, there's 3 more, is why is this topic important to me? And this topic is important to me because I am honestly a bit of a nerd. I play video games almost non-stop whenever I can. And throughout my time playing them, I found that video games have actually helped me in the classroom in various ways that are kind of unexpected. I grew up around a dad who played the Sid Meier's Civilization series games forever, and in turn he ended up getting me into them. But using those games, they actually are based on historical leaders, historical towns, and building up through technologies and all that. But I ended up learning a good bit of technology, world history, and important figures in history using the Sid Meier Civilization series. And it was because of that I actually became semi-good at history and various other forms of stuff. And other video games also ended up helping me out throughout school, but Sid Meier's is one that sticks out the most in my mind. But a lot of people will go in depth about video games, and they've been beaten to death, but video games have been analyzed a lot more, but I feel flash games have been kind of ignored because internet is still kind of a new frontier as far as video games go. Because they're going to focus mostly on video games such as League of Legends, Minecraft, and World of Warcraft, who are all massive multiplayer online games, or MMORPGs. Or not MMO, yeah, MMOs, massively multiplayer online games. But those games, they're only a small fraction of what's actually out there because at some point everybody's going to play Farmville and other things where things like Facebook and MySpace started taking off. But I doubt there's been very many look-sees into these things, and it's also cheap and free. If you have a computer, if you have internet access, you can very easily get to these games, and they're free, and they're not going to be downloads. They just get on the site, you just play them, and you can apply it to the classroom in any way, sense, or form. That's why this is important to me, because I feel like these are an untapped frontier in the educational world, whereas, you know, everything else has been kind of beaten to death and has been given a bad rap, and et cetera, et cetera. But I feel Flash games can be very helpful in the classroom, and also as an ex-computer programmer, I feel very very attached to games such as that. So that's why this topic is very important to me. The other question she asked for me is, what is your end product, and give a short description of it. Well, like I said, tomorrow's a presentation day for all this. My final end product, I'm actually not going to have anything really tactile. I'm going to probably show like bits and snippets of this video, of this vlog series, if not, or just sit there and summarize them all, and maybe show brief things of the websites, or not websites, the video games that, Flash games that I'm talking about. So it's going to be more of a presentation style and more like a lecture kind of thing, rather than it's actually going to be a stand up in front of the class or an interactive thing. I mean, I could very easily make it interactive. I mean, in this class we all have to have our laptops anyway, so I might just ask them to bring up like Urban Rivals. It's a safe website, and I doubt that anybody would really mind just pulling it up and playing a video game for like 10 minutes while I talk about it. So that's what I plan on doing, and that's my final product, and I'll end up probably showing a few of these videos in class, but if not, we'll see what happens, you know, time constraints and all that. And the final question she has for me is, what have you learned designing this project? Well, in designing this project, I've done a lot, like, main thing I will admit is learning about YouTube. If you've watched the first video, if you watched the first video to now, I'm not, even in 5 videos, I've gotten a little bit more confident talking to my computer and posting things on YouTube, versus whereas before I was still brand freaking new and just still like blown out of my mind. It's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Now I'm actually having fun with it. And one of the things I actually started having a lot of fun with is, if you hadn't noticed, I haven't worn the same hat twice yet. And I mean, like I said, I have a lot of hats sitting around here, and I just figured have a little bit of fun, be like, okay, that was the Dutch Fork High School one, that was the Panthers hat one, that was the Atlanta Braves one. Just, you know, have a little bit of fun with it. I figured, you know, I've always been a little bit of a goof, and I have ADHD, so I always like having a little bit of a distraction segue, and that's been something I've had fun in creating these things and having a little bit of fun, you know, sitting here and talking to the internet, and whoever decides to watch this, and hopefully try and rub off on them a little bit. That's what I've learned, and I've actually very much enjoyed about doing this project the entire time. Well, now that business is out of the way, if you watched the previous video, I actually started analyzing the Flash video game Urban Rivals, which is on urbanrivals.com. It's a game that you do have to create a profile for, but it's free to play after that, and it's on your browser, no downloads. But beyond that, I started talking about math, psychology, and statistics. I ended up going into full detail in the previous blog about it, and, you know, I went into details, but right before the 15-minute mark, or right before the 14-minute mark hit, I had a little epiphany while I was talking about the video game, where I started talking about the in-game economy of it. And as I stated previously when I was analyzing Neopets a few videos back, whenever you deal with economy in a game, you always are dealing with basic math. But in this game, it adds a more interesting aspect to that, since it is a trading card game. In this game, they have a market. You can buy cards. They randomly do generate cards when, you know, they hand out booster packs after you have a certain amount of, in the in-game economy, the coins are called Clints. Well, after you have enough of those, you can buy cards, and those add more cards to the total pot in the game itself. But ultimately, what owners and people decide to do is they ultimately decide that they have cards, they have duplicates, or they have cards that they're never going to use and they don't want. They're going to go and they're going to sell them. But excuse me. So this game introduces an interesting thing of supply and demand. There are differing rarities of cards, almost like the old days when you had like I said, like I've said before in previous videos, I'm a millennial child, so I am going to definitely reference Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and, you know, if you had anything else, I mean, I had a brief fling with Digimon as well. But, you know, those cards, you always had those cards that were really, really, really rare, and the ones that you would get every time you open a pack, and where they were the ones that you put in your bike spokes. It was literally, that's how worthless they were. In this game, you can't actually put a card in your bike spokes, so what you're going to do is you're going to turn around and you're going to sell it because it's just holding up your deck capacity. And therefore, the varying rarities of the cards, and they're also, you know, the power of the cards, and increase the demand of these cards. Demand of these cards by other people. And, you know, if you have one of like 3 in the total game, you can get away with selling it for an absurd amount of money because, hey, if you want it, you're going to end up paying a buku amount for it. But, you know, if you have a card that everybody has, and it's like, well, I'll just sell it for like dirt cheap, just get rid of it, please. I think they actually have a policy that if it's up there for like 3 weeks, they'll take it off the server and they'll reimburse you like half of it. Or half of what, or they'll not reimburse you, but they'll pay you, like, I think, what the average market price of it was. But, anyways, but that's all economics. For those of you who've taken macroeconomics or microeconomic, and more macro, you know, it's all supply and demand. If you're going to have a card that nobody else wants, you're going to have to sell it for dirt cheap if you actually want to get rid of it. If you have a very common card and you're trying to sell it for, on that game, 120 or 1200, 1200 is a lot of Clint's. So if you're going to sit there and you're going to sell the most common card in the game for 1200 Clint's, you're never going to sell it. I'm sorry. You may want the money, but nobody's going to want to pay that much for a card that they can turn around and buy like nothing. But if you have a card that, you know, like I said previously, you have one of 3 in the game, you can get away with selling it for like a $250,000 Clint's. There are going to be players that have that money and they've been looking for that card, and they're going to be like, oh, gimme, 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 gimme. Exactly. And that's all the economics right there. You have high demand, so you can sell it for a higher price, but when you have a very low demand, you can't sell it for the high price. You got to go for lower. And it's all macroeconomics. So a way you can pull out this game with a deck full of good cards and bad cards and tell you guys, okay, I need you to make this many Clint's by selling your cards on the market, by observing the average market price, and blah, 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 blah. I even got myself a little confused saying that. If you see what I mean, it's, you know, it's all economics, and it's basic supply and demand and averages and how much of a risk are you going to want to take, and that's very easily applicable to an economics classroom. Well, I can already see I'm going to start running out of time. I'm not even going to try to divulge into Monster MMORPG. So this is going to be the end of part 1, but stay tuned for part 2, which will be posted up as soon as I'm done posting this one. I will analyze Monster MMORPG, and I will do a total wrap-up of the project so far, and hopefully you guys have enjoyed the project so far, but like I said, there's part 2 yet to come, so I'll see you guys in a little bit.